In this problem, you're asked to find the value of the inverse of f at x equals 1. You're given f of x, but you are asked to plug 1 into the inverse of f. So that means that you need to go about some work to figure out what that inverse is. And so there's actually two methods to approach this problem, and I'm going to talk about both of them here. But most students in use method 1. And method 1 is where you actually go about the work to find the inverse, and then you plug in the value. So that's good work because that's exactly what it's asking you to do, plug 1 into the inverse. So if you follow some of the methods that we've been teaching you, we've said that you can list out your steps that you're doing to x in your original. So you're multiplying by 3 and then you're adding 7, which means in your inverse you would undo those in the opposite order. And so if you wanted to write out your inverse of f of x, that means that 2x, first you would subtract 7 to do the opposite, and then you would go about dividing by 3. And so now we have written our inverse. Not too bad, just 2 quick steps. And then what you'll do is you're going to plug 1 into that inverse where you see x. So we're actually plugging 1 into the inverse. So 1 minus 7 all over 3. So that's negative 6 divided by 3, which is equal to negative 2. So that means that the output is negative 2. Now, there is another method that I think it's important for us to highlight because it uses a little bit of different level of thinking, and that is that method 2, you could just set your original function equal to that input. And that is because that we know, if we know you have f and its inverse, the x and the y values flip. So we know that for the inverse, x is equal to 1 in the inverse. So I'm going to write that here just to kind of highlight that. That means if x is 1 in the inverse, that means that y is 1 in your original, f of x, right? That's what that's telling us when we talk about x's and y values flip. If we know an input in one, you really know the output of the other. So that means that what you could do is that you could set 1 equal to 7 plus 3x, and then you could just solve this right away. So you'd subtract 7 on both sides, so you'd have negative 6 is equal to 3x, and you divide by 3, and you get x equals negative 2. And so both of those both of those methods rather, give you negative 2 as your solution. One is actually going about finding the inverse, and one is using what we know about inverses to help us. Depending upon the difficulty of this function that you're given, you might choose one method over the other to help you get your solution.